Good morning. It is 10:20 a.m. on Monday, September 7th, 2020, Labor Day. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up for the second time. This is 5 more minutes. So, I got up at about 6 a.m. with Rocket and took him outside. And one thing to know about Rocket is that he has reached an age where it is common for puppies to have a little bit of teenage phase. Like there's a little bit of pushing boundaries and how much can I get away with, and some of that. And I mean, some of it's a little bit frustrating, but I found myself getting more impatient than was merited. And so I was realizing to myself, you know what? I probably need more sleep. And so I went back to bed, even though I hadn't, like when I got up the first time, I had been feeling vaguely like, yeah, I'm awake enough to stay up. But then I promptly went back to sleep for another 3 hours. And then when I took Rocket out a second time, um, yeah, he's still doing it, but I was better able to weather that storm, if you follow me. Um, so it's Labor Day. I don't have a lot to say about that, except to just certainly say that I think while it is certainly true that there have been some abuses of labor in the past, or I should say, abuses from labor unions is I guess what I meant. But I nonetheless think that they're an important institution, and that a holiday honoring the worker, which is such a important part of like the American economy needs, like, and not just the economy, but like the population is workers, right? And the people who depend on them. So in any event, I think that's all very important. But I did also see two movies that I wanted to talk a little bit about. This is going to be relatively short, even though I could probably talk about each of these movies much longer. The first is Your Name, which is an anime movie from a few years back that, yeah, got squeaker accompaniment. Um, Your Name was a movie that I had heard a lot of really glowing reviews of, but never got around to seeing until just recently. And yeah, it's really, really good. So the sort of initial logline premise is that you have this teenage girl and this teenage boy. The girl lives in kind of rural Japan, and the boy lives in Tokyo, and they mysteriously swap bodies when they're dreaming. And so you could certainly take a premise like that and have it be like either a silly or sexy sort of surface level adventure. Um, but it's so much deeper and more meaningful than that. It's less about being in the body of the opposite gender and or opposite sex, and more about getting to know someone um, intimately, from like just knowing their life and their feelings and the people around them, and finding that connection and just this feeling of longing. And like, so that's what it's like really about. And it's so good. It's wonderful. I recommend it heartily. The other movie is I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is a new movie on Netflix from Charlie Kaufman, who wrote things like um, Being John Malkovich, and then Adaptation, and Synecdoche, New York. There's another one I'm forgetting the name of right now. But in any case, he writes very weird stories. And this one is certainly no exception. The most superficial premise of that one is that we have a young woman who is traveling with her boyfriend to meet her boyfriend's parents for the first time. But it's apparent very early on that something weird is happening. And we go through pretty much the whole movie with things being sort of weird and uncanny, and in a lot of ways kind of dreamlike. Um, and there's a lot of stuff that is really kind of just on the edge of like, could this be just a normal thing that I'm overreacting to, or is there something going on? And then, eventually you start having some stuff that it's like, it's obvious like something is weird here, but it's hard for us, the audience, to kind of put our finger on what it is. But as it navigates this weird narrative, it just evokes so many things about, relationships and family and just what it means to live your life and your hopes and dreams and so on. In some ways, if it, like, in that sense, it feel like it's like similar subject matter to Your Name. But uh, I finished the movie still not 100% sure I understood what was meant to be happening, which is not to say that I wasn't still moved by much of it. But I did kind of look up to see if there was a bit more of an explainer. Turns out there is. I'm not going to spoil those things now because I do agree with what that explainer says, which is it's better to watch it the first time not knowing what's going on and then read the explainer, and then maybe you revisit it if you want. But I agree, I think that's the way to go with that movie. It's very strange, it's weird. If you like his stuff, you'll like that. If you're kind of in the mood for a more straightforward narrative, maybe it's not the way to go. But in any case, I'll leave it there for right now and talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.